On today's show, ever wonder who those guys are who ride around in strange hats and parades? Well, you're going to meet the Shriners and their horses as we tag along at the Shriner Ranch. Kayaking is one of the fastest growing water sports in Minnesota. We'll head to northern Minnesota to tag along with someone who knows best, Mary, the kayak lady.
And now we have these two beautiful trout.
And daughter Laura is back in the kitchen with Chef James from Radisson Blue. On the menu, how about grilled rainbow trout? And our Minnesota-bound classic this week takes us to an adventure, one of my favorites, Wiley Point, to the wonderful land of Lake of the Woods.
Get the net!
Those stories and more, next.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers.
Hi everybody, Raven and I welcome you to the show. You know, you don't hear much about them, but one of the most popular outdoor activities in Minnesota is horseback riding. And nobody rides horses with more intensity and fun than the folks we call the Shriners. Another parade in another Minnesota community for the Zura Shrine Horse Patrol, this time in Robbinsdale. Time to spruce up their four-legged stars.
Oh, we have a blast. An absolute blast. Let's get ready to roll. Organized chaos.
And so it begins, the magic of a parade. And here they come, the Shriners and their mounts. Okay, so these Shriners like horses, they like parades. But what's the point? Dick Rindle had an easy answer.
We ride so that a crippled child may someday walk. Well, the Shriners have 22 hospitals for physically impaired children. We as Shriners support these hospitals. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yes, but behind the scenes, lots of work goes into that nutshell.
We have 2 drill competitions per year, typically, in addition to all the parades that we have during the summer months. But we want to put on a good show, and we're competing against other units from around the Midwest.
And most every Wednesday night at the Shrine Ranch in Maple Plain, it's practice time. Practice horsemanship and their routines.
That's good.
Once you get out to the ranch, it's tough to leave. It's just such a great environment. I love everything about it.
Shriners ready, horses ready, time to practice.
Come on, let's face it. Who doesn't want to be a cowboy? Doesn't everybody want to be a cowboy?
Practice comes to an end, but the force that inspires these Shriners is a long way from a horse barn. This is the Shriner Hospital in St. Paul, first built in 1920. So how big is this hospital, Laura?
We're a 40-bed hospital.
And the children that come here, what kind of ailments do you run into?
They're all orthopedic conditions, so muscle, bone, and joint related. Some kids have taken their first steps here.
Down the hall, a young boy from Mexico was amazing his parents by taking his first steps.
This is my friend Sebastian, and he has a new walker, and he's learning to use it by himself.
There are 22 hospitals, one in Canada, one in Mexico, 20 scattered around the United States. They say, well, we know the Shriners, we know parades, and we know the fez, which is a very recognizable symbol, but they just don't know about the hospital side. And then there are misconceptions about the hospital side that you have to be related to a Shriner or something to be a patient here, which is just not true.
And the day this boy walks out the door, there's no charge.
If you look around the hospital, you won't find a patient billing department. And we want to provide good medical care for them. We don't want to have families have to pay for this. We'll set up some dollars to get this all in motion. We'll provide even the transportation for the kids to get to our hospitals.
All right, fellas, let's line up again.
Meanwhile, back at the horse barn, the Shriners, they don't forget.
Our slogan in the Horsemen is, we ride so they can walk. You know, it's the greatest philanthropy there ever was.
I had no idea that I would eventually paddle all of the lakes.
Coming up, her name, Mary Scheidler, and she has logged over 1,000 lakes in her kayak. Her story is coming up next.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers. Renewal by Anderson, Seven Clans Casino, Connecticut, and by Rapala.
Put more into your summer with the 2013 GMC Sierra. And now get a Sierra with more standard features like StabiliTrack, Eaton rear locking differential, and 6 months of OnStar directions and connections. More confidence with America's best pickup coverage, including 2 years of scheduled maintenance, and more value with up to $8,500 for current GMC owners who trade up to Sierra PowerTech. The only thing there won't be more of are 2013 GMC Sierras. Once they're gone, they're gone.
Coming up, so you think you've been on many Minnesota lakes, huh? Well, listen, I don't think you've done much at all, unless you are Mary, the kayak lady.
Here's the boat, and this is the boat I actually did all the lakes in.
A famous boat with no name?
No, everything else is named. The truck is the Red Pony. My house is the Red House. The boat does not have a name, and that's the only thing I haven't named.
Maybe a kayak doesn't need a name when its paddler has one that says it all. Meet Mary, the kayak lady. It's a handle she's earned because of how many lakes she's paddled. Yes, the number is right. 1,007 lakes, all in Itasca County.
This is why I started to paddle, so I could get in these areas, because I've been driving past these all my life and was just curious. I always say I'm 50% Russian and 100% curious, and that's what drove me to get on the water.
Okay, the kayak lady from Grand Rapids, whose real name is Mary Scheidler, might like to paddle a little, but more than 1,000 lakes?
This is a map of Itasca County, and there are 1,007 lakes in Itasca County. And when I started this project in July of 1996, it was just, again, driven by a curiosity. I had no idea that I would eventually paddle all of the lakes. People said, you know, you really ought to keep a journal of what you're doing. So I just journaled on the map because that was the most convenient. And then, of course, the journal on the map, those notes became the book. So the book is a memoir, and at the time that I was paddling, I was going through some changes in my life. So the book isn't just all about paddling the lakes, but there's plenty of adventure about getting to and from the lakes, people I met, things I saw.
Words from her book say it all.
My concern about being in the rain instantly vanished as hail began striking and bouncing off the kayak and my head. I removed my glasses and pulled my cap down over my face in an attempt to keep dry.
Mary's photographs also say something.
This is probably one of my favorite photos of all time, the otter. This guy just popped up with his family right in front of the kayak one August afternoon.
Mary, the kayak lady, never has counted the paddle strokes, and maybe that's a good thing.
But as time went on and my marriage broke up and I got divorced, I started to paddle a lot alone, and at first it was bothersome to me. I didn't like it. I didn't want to be alone. I wasn't quite sure what to do with myself. But then as time went on and I could get into my own thoughts and just be quiet and peaceful on the water.
And so she goes, Mary, the kayak lady, alone and content, one paddle stroke at a time.
Oh yeah, I'll always kayak. As long as I can get in and out of the boat, I'll do that.
Some sort of smoked chips or something going to get the
Daughter Laura is going wild in the kitchen with Chef James as they prepare rainbow trout on the grill.
Closed captioning is brought to you by The Yard, premier manufacturers of maintenance-free outdoor patio furniture and accessories from recycled plastic.
By the Yard maintenance-free furniture. Comfort, elegance, and recycling combined. Call today for your free catalog or go online to bytheyard.net.
Up next, Laura Shera is going wild in the kitchen, and on the menu is grilled rainbow trout. I wonder if Laura caught him.
Today we're at Fire Lake Grill House, our new home base for Wild in the Kitchen, and we're here with Wild Executive Chef Jim Kinberg. And Chef, we're going to cook some trout, is that right?
Yes, we are, rainbow trout. We have this beautiful grill behind us. It's simply grilled over a little bit of mesquite wood. We're gonna accent it with a little chive butter, a little citrus.
Ooh, that sounds like the secret ingredient.
Yeah, it's a good one.
All right, Jim, so what are our first steps here? I see we have some beautiful rainbow trout.
We do, but the first step is actually gonna be making the chive butter. Kind of mince it, small little pieces. Real bright lemon flavor we wanna put into that butter as well. We're gonna add just a little bit of paprika with a nice soft butter. We're just gonna kind of fold those together.
Is that because I'm guessing you're going to slice it later and you want it to look pretty, is that right?
Exactly. Tie this on the ends.
How long should that be in the refrigerator?
It should be in the fridge for about a half an hour to set it up.
All right, so our chive butter is chilling in the refrigerator, and now we have these two beautiful trout we're going to prep for the grill.
We are. Take a little bit of olive oil, just kind of brush it right on the fish. Just a little bit of salt and pepper. When you've got great ingredients like this, you're cooking over the hardwood flame, you don't have to do much to them. All right.
Beautiful.
So let's take this one over to the grill.
Now, do you have to have some sort of smoked chips or something going to get the flavor in the trout?
You can use charcoal, but I would encourage you to soak some chips, put them on top of the charcoal. The mesquite flavor is really gonna add a lot to this dish. Just let it sit there. You don't wanna move it around at this point. You just wanna let it cook. You can always tell when the fish is ready to flip, when it is easy to release from the grill. Just carefully pull it over like that.
Look at that. Delicate is right, but it looks delicious. Well, Jim, this is a simple, easy recipe to do, and I can certainly say it looks wildly delicious.
Well, thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Rob Drieslein, Managing Editor of the Outdoor News Publications. Few bodies of water have seen more fish research than Lake Mille in central Minnesota. This spring, the DNR is conducting a huge walleye population survey on the Big Lake. The study was prompted by the DNR's annual walleye assessment last fall, which showed the lowest population of this important sport fish on the lake in about 40 years. To follow up, the DNR wanted to tag 20,000 spawning walleyes this spring. The late ice out that stymied anglers across northern Minnesota, however, limited the number of walleyes that the DNR could tag to about 7,000 fish. Because of that late ice out, DNR crews couldn't work until after the May 11th fishing opener. By the time they had access to the fish, the window had closed on the walleye spawn. Fisheries crews were recapturing walleyes in late May and early April to compare the ratio of marked fish to unmarked fish to form a solid population estimate. Despite the early problems for the study, the DNR hopes a good walleye recapture effort will improve its overall success. In other Mille Lacs news, the same late ice out that delayed the DNR's research also created problems for tribal netting on the Big Lake. By late May, Ojibwa bands had taken only 14,000 pounds of Mille Lacs walleyes compared to over 100,000 pounds most previous springs. The bands usually take almost all of their annual treaty harvest during April and May. Now, how will the late ice out affect the overall spawn in the 2013 year class of walleyes in Lake Mille Lacs this year? That's a good question, says Rick Bruzewitz of DNR Fisheries. Quote, we have had decent year classes with other late ice outs, but we have nothing to compare to ice outs this late. It was quite a year, folks. For regular updates on how this research and Mille Lacs fishing unfolds in 2013, check out the print edition of Outdoor News or view us online at outdoornews.com. I'm Rob Drieslein.
Still ahead, a trip to one of my favorite fishing places. It's called Lake of the Woods. And where you go is a place called Wiley Point.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Hennepin County Medical Center, Minnesota Agricultural Water Resources Coalition, Minnesota soybean farmers and their checkoff.
What are some common misconceptions random people in Minneapolis have about farming today? Let's find out.
I would like to ask farmers if they could go back to the way it was.
To go back to the old days isn't a real valid statement. We might have bigger machines, we might use nutrients, but our carbon footprint per acre and per bushel today is so much less than it was in the 70s or the 50s.
Get to know more about how Minnesota farmers practice responsible, ethical agriculture for life at therealstorymn.com.
Time now for our Minnesota Bound Classic as we take you to one of my favorite fishing adventures, Lake of the Woods, in a place called Wiley Point. And stick around because you'll have a special invitation to join me in a fishing boat.
If you're an angler looking for Camelot, well, this could be it. Lake of the Woods, part Minnesota, part Ontario. Together, a whole world of fishing to explore amid 14,000 islands. Countless fishy haunts for America's top game fish. Meet Will Madigan. Will is a legendary fishing guide on a legendary Lake of the Woods at a legendary lodge, Wiley Point.
I would say probably 70% of all the fish I bring in the boat, muskies, are caught on a figure 8.
Good advice if you need it. Don't forget, it takes 10,000 casts to catch a muskie. That is, if you see one. Oh! Turns out, not this time. So when the muskie gets lockjaw, a fisherman's thoughts turn to walleyes.
They're down there. He's an eater, though.
Catching walleyes and eating walleyes.
I love to cook. People think it's an inconvenience for me, but no, I like to get off the lake every day and cook. I like making a good meal for people. So these are the walleyes we caught this morning, perfect eating size. And I'm just dipping them in some egg and evaporated milk here. And what I have over here is some cornflake crumbs and flour. So we'll just dip it in that, toss it in there. I like to push down on this as it's in the cornflake crumbs, just because it sticks a lot better in the hot oil. And then comes out just like that.
Will's cooking fire gets hot thanks to dried firewood borrowed from a busy beaver house. Thanks, Bucky.
The rib cage is right here. You want that facing up. If it's facing down, the fish will curl up like this on you. And these don't take long at all. If the oil's hot enough, it should only take maybe a minute or two, depending on the size of the fillet. Looks pretty good, eh? Just like that. And that's how you make a great Canadian shore lunch. I got one. Yeah. Get the net.
So here's the proof in case you didn't believe my fish story.
There you go.
That took all day.
It did.
Well, we missed quite a few though too, eh?
How many inches do you think that one is?
He's not a huge one, but it's a
muskie.
It's a muskie.
Yeah, end of story.
Great fishing, great place. Okay, now here's your invitation. The folks at Wiley Point have put together a special deal so you can join me for a trip up to Wiley Point later in July. All of the details are in mnbound.com. Check it out, okay? Let's go fishing together. That about does it for us. Remember, introduce a kid to the great outdoors. I'm Ron Sharon, of course, always the star of the show, Raven.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. For more information on these stories and more, catch us on the web at mnbound.com.